So it's not really a secret that Trump absolutely hates Jerome Powell and wants him out of as a Fed chair as soon as possible, even though that's only going to happen next year by May. But it's a very interesting year so far, especially with the amount of pressure for rate cuts that are just not happening because of the whole Fed situation. So not only I would like to talk about the actually handwritten note by Trump talking to straight to Jerome Powell and wanting to have interest rates at 1%, but also what's happening behind the scenes and what it means for liquidity, because it really affects everything that's happening right now with monetary mechanics. So let's dive right in. So first off, we always have to recap the whole story about the Fed funds rate as we speak, because we have a huge pause after the Fed the Fed pivot in 2024, which is now completely frozen. So they don't know what to do. They think tariffs are still inflationary, and they're leaning on that as an excuse, which is quite convenient if we talk about how monetary mechanics actually do not work like that. And now it's a whole pressure because of the industries that are completely frozen, like real estate, for example. So we have a lot of things going on, and the pressure is just mounting quicker and quicker. So this is one of the many attacks that Trump directs towards Powell. So, for example, here, Jerome Too Late Powell, as they call him, and his entire board should be ashamed of themselves for allowing this to happen to the United States. They have one of the easiest, yes, most prestigious jobs in America, and they have failed and continue to do so. If they were doing their job properly, our country would be saving trillions of dollars in interest costs. So this is one of the main themes that actually were even though Trump and Elon are not friends anymore, they agree on that one. They want to bring the cost down for interest rates because no country can run like that, and we should be paying 1% interest or better. And the most interesting thing is maybe you've seen that all over social media, how this whole world central bank rates list has been handwritten by Trump, where he literally says, look, we are here. We are here in this highlighted zone here, along with Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, and Guatemala, and all of these third world countries that are paying much higher interest rates. We should be on the top right. He literally writes, should be here. And Jerome, you are, as usual, too late. It will cost the USA billions of dollars in interest rates. You should lower that and just keep. He just keeps hammering in a very Trump style, which is absolutely amazing for the memes. I mean, 2025 is one of the best years ever, and of course, that creates a lot of confusion. And what happens to liquidity? What is going to happen right now if we have so much pressure? So sometimes people don't know what to do with their investments, and you want to go deeper, to dive deeper into that, to know exactly with more actionable information. So this is why we have our BI report, where Sina had a great discussion about that as well. We have a great report that we just released for our premium users with the macroeconomic outlook. We talk about that as well, and way more stuff here. I also have my part here on to make bonds safe haven again. So a lot of actionable stuff and how it influences Bitcoin as well. So this is a weekly document that we provide to the BI report. You can, if you're interested in that and know exactly what to do with their investments, you can click on the link in the description below. Just make sure to use the promo code when you apply. Okay, so back to our content here. William Poulter is very vocal about Jerome Powell, and he has been absolutely hammering the Fed chair as we speak. So this is just one of the many examples. Jerome Powell's tenure of Fed chair has been a masterclass in economic mismanagement under Biden. So he has the feeling that there is a lot of a narrative going on that actually that 0.5% rate cut that was actually the beginning of the pivot may have been a forced event. So politically speaking, and I'm not going to get any political here, so don't worry about that. that would be favoring Biden before he left because of the whole narrative of rate cuts and how this is going to stimulate the economy. But we know, on the other hand, that this is not really what helps the economy. So cutting rates is a huge myth of actually stimulating something, since you have a lot of fiscal deficits that are driven through interest rates. And whoever has interest, receives interest, on the other hand, as the bond holder, is the one going to decide where that money is going to flow. So it's a very interesting scenario, especially when we have such a high percentage of deficit spending. So he says here, yeah, his reckless money printing fueled 40-year high inflation, doubled mortgage payments. That's his main concern. That's it's all about mortgages, and that's the same guy who announced that Bitcoin can now be used as collateral to actually get interest to get a loan in mortgages, and triggered bank collapse like SVB, like Silicon Valley Bank, leaving retirees and homeowners holding the bag. So he's not holding back at all. Like this is an example here. So when you say Powell, we expect to see higher inflation readings over summer. So Powell is really leaning onto the high inflation tariffs, but we already talked about this. Sina talked about this as well. How this is it's just a smoke screen. It's not really true, since it's more deflationary long term than inflationary. But this is the huge scare, as if he was trying to hold off inflation rates artificially high in order to counter Trump, since he's going to be leaving as well. He wants to be seen as the Paul Volcker, as the guy who broke the back of inflation. And we know this is all a myth. And Polta doesn't hold back, just calls him a moron. So it's very, very interesting scenario here. But what I would like to bring it to your attention is the monetary mechanics of interest rates, because we discussed that on previous videos as well. How unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you describe the system, if you follow Bitcoin, it's probably just unfortunate to see how the spending on deficit, so the deficit spending, is actually inflationary. It's actually bringing more stimulus to the markets. It brings more liquidity, and not the other way around. And this is exactly something that was said by Warren Mosler. So he's one of the fathers of MMT, and he literally says, as we speak, that up to a regressive high multiple 1% drag on GDP and climbing. So he says, look, whatever is happening right now with tariffs, trying to cut deficit spending, trying to reduce interest rate spending, this is all affecting GDP, because the US, as the So when you see all that coming together, you see how he is against actually the deficit spending. So when we see a reversal on interest rates, this will mean, look, you're actually going to contract the economy. You're actually going to break down the whole US exceptionalism that had a GDP that was fueled by deficit spending. And Jeff Snyder, also from Yale University, as I follow pretty closely, always says, when you have lower interest rates, which is something that is happening right now, over time, this creates tighter and tighter money, maybe getting to the very opposite intention that the government is, because you shouldn't be worrying too much about deficit spending, but more on where it is directed. So, of course, I'm not here to make any judgments on that, but the more deficit spending we have, the more interest rate payments we have, the more liquidity it brings to Bitcoin, to risk assets, to the S&P 500, and we can benefit from that. That's why everybody needs to be invested somewhere, and especially if you watch this, you're probably invested in Bitcoin as well. So this is going to be very interesting, because at the same time as we have deficit spending going on an exponential trajectory, those things can create some disturbances, some turbulence, and short-term liquidity, which could be seen as a great opportunity to enter the markets as well. So we have to wait and see. So this is pretty interesting, that clash between those two, especially when you have a mandate that is ending soon could create a huge shift where Trump can take over the Fed. He's going to be nominating the next person to replace Jerome Powell and creating a lot of narrative pressure. So this is going to be very fascinating to see. So hope this helps to understand everything that's going on with liquidity. And of course, 2025 is one of the most interesting years by far. So see you in the next video.